going away. A judge ordering the release of even more Clinton emails as Donald Trump and others call for a special prosecutor. They want an independent investigation into the pay-to-play allegations between the State Department and donors to the Clinton Foundation. So would a special prosecutor be worth the cost to taxpayers? Hi, everybody. I'm Dagen McDowell in for Brenda Butner. This is Bulls and Bears. The Bulls and Bears this week, Gary B. Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, John Layfield, along with Lisa Booth and Jessica Tarlov. Welcome to everybody. Lisa, is a special prosecutor worth the cost?
Absolutely, Dagen, because the reality is the Obama administration has shown their cards. You had Loretta Lynch sit on a plane with Bill Clinton during an investigation. And there's also reports that the Department of Justice turned down the FBI's request to investigate the Clinton Foundation on public corruption charges. And the reality is Hillary Clinton is running to be commander-in-chief of this great nation. And while she was the nation's top diplomat, it certainly looks like her influence was for sale. You look at the Associated Press report, 55% of the non-government individuals she sat down with or took phone calls with were Clinton Foundation donors. You look at the International Business Times, and they reported that arms sales to governments that donated to the Clinton Foundation increased under her watch. You also look at the New York Times, who reported about Uranium One in a deal that Hillary Clinton approved as Secretary of State that gave Russia 20% of the U.S.'s uranium, and there was donors behind that deal as well. So, you know, you've got to have someone independently come in here because you can't trust the DOJ.
We need a new word, Jessica, for cozy to describe how tight the Clinton Foundation was with the State Department in terms of sharing employees, comparing schedules, and mixing those foundation donors with those begging for favors from the State Department. Why not a special prosecutor?
Well, as a Democrat, you know, I love to spend money, so I'm not going to take that argument there. And I understand the cause for concern, and, you know, very liberal publications like the Washington Post have come out and said that the Clinton Foundation should essentially disband and hand all their operations over to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I do understand the concern here. As to that AP report, which Lisa cited, there have been a lot of people who have torn that apart. And when you say that 55% of the non-government people that she had meetings with were also donors, you're not talking about the thousands of other people who are government officials that she met with. You're also talking about, I mean, the AP went off about Muhammad Yunus and Elie Wiesel, which I think is really a new low there. But I understand the concern. But I also think that right now the GOP just wants to hammer this over and over again because Donald Trump is sinking. And they think that this is what they can do. They can make her seem so untrustworthy that she won't get elected. But it's not going to work.
But, John, this is an individual who wants to be the president of the United States, who clearly abused the role of Secretary of State in terms of helping curry favor for the Clinton Foundation donors. I mean, there was a direct connection between one donor who wanted a meeting, the Crown Prince of Iran, and getting a meeting with Hillary Clinton. We found that out this past week.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And remember, the DOJ did not investigate the ties between the Clinton Foundation and the Secretary of State, Miss Clinton. They investigated the emails, which they said that no reasonable prosecutor, would suggest criminal prosecution. But here's the issue. Look, remember Whitewater with the president, with the Clintons, both President Clinton and Miss Clinton. You had a special prosecutor in Ken Starr. He spent tens of millions of dollars. The only indictment came from the SEC investigation of the McDougalls, not from the special prosecutor. James Comey, the FBI director, the then Deputy Attorney General under President Bush, has said that the only reason for a special prosecution is if there's going to be a criminal charge, not just to find more facts. And I don't think that you're going to see a criminal charge. Is I think this unethical? Is I think it's wrong? Yes, I think a lot of people in Washington, D.C. are doing it. But I think as far as a criminal prosecution, this isn't going to happen. So I think it's a waste of money to get a special prosecutor.
Jonas, waste of money?
Well, in that if you expanded it to all politicians, I'm pretty sure the list of politicians that took phone calls or made appointments with rich people who gave them money or might have given money down the road is a pretty long list. So you would be spending a lot of taxpayer money. I will say, broadly speaking, the concept here of that the government could use money to actually find out what these people have done, not just one side like this would be, but like, you know, we have this fund, this presidential election campaign fund that no one uses. It's like a $250 million slush fund. Why don't, you know, it's hard to become an FBI agent than to become the president. Like, why don't they do a credit check on them, limited tax analysis, criminal checks, background, like, I don't know what either one of them really is done when it boils right down to it over long periods of time. And I know there's privacy issues, but they're running for president and it's a government job. And when you take other government jobs, they do drug tests. We don't even know those results. else. They get to make weird accusations, this about her health, and this is crooked. Like, why don't we know there? Why don't the government just do all that and give it to the voters so we can make decisions?
But Gary B., these aren't weird accusations getting pulled out of the ether. This is information that was laid out in emails, particularly the ones that came out from Huma Abedin. Why aren't they going after her chief of staff, Cheryl Mills' emails? What's in there? Why did the private server exist in the first place? Well, to hide the activities between the Clinton Foundation and the State Department.
Well, Dagan, here's where I come down on this. One, why they're not going after them is because Hillary Clinton's a Democratic candidate. If it was reversed around and Donald Trump had the Donald Trump Foundation and he was a politician, they'd certainly be going after him, I think. But maybe I'm a little bit more cynical. I understand all the points and the rebel rousing that Lisa made, and I agree with them. But here's the thing. The Clintons are smart. As John kind of implied, you're not going to find anything dirty that they did. And even if you did, what are you going to find? They're politicians. They're influenced by money. My God, it's like saying there's ambitious people in Washington, D.C. So we'll waste a couple $1 million with all these prosecutors. It'll all come out. They'll find nothing. There'll maybe some frivolous stuff. The Clintons will say, see, we did nothing wrong. Again, maybe I'm cynical. It's all going to come to nothing. I just rather at this point not waste taxpayers' money to find out something we already know.
Well, that's incredibly sad, is it not, Lisa? That is the attitude of the American people is, yeah, they're smart enough to get away with something and never get charged.
I don't think it's the attitude of the American people. It's certainly my attitude.
It's the attitude of a lot of people, Lisa.
A lot. Gary, you're better than that. No, look, it's in the public interest to figure out what happened here. She's running to be commander-in-chief. She wants to oversee the world's largest nuclear arsenal and the world's largest superpower. And to Jessica's earlier point, it's just really interesting to me that the Democratic Party is attacking the Associated Press's report. You know what? I think I'm going to go with the Associated Press here, considering the fact that Hillary Clinton took the unprecedented steps to set up a private server in the first place, spent a reported $140,000 out of her own pocket to maintain that server, and then used special BleachBit to delete tens of thousands of emails. So even forensics could not recover those emails. So I think I'm going to go with the Associated Press when Hillary Clinton has systematically lied to the American people.
The Associated Press has already walked back what they did. It was the way in which they reported it, just as the statistic you threw out was misleading.
Jessica.
It is the Associated.
No, it's not. There's been numerous reports.
The statistic you threw out about 55% right, and the difference also, which is drawn clearly in the sand between access and favors. And to Gary's point, I think he's exactly correct. If you look at the numbers, over 60% of Americans do not care about this anymore. Over 80% of Democrats and independents just want to distract from Donald Trump. That is what is going on here. The immigration flip-flops, the race-baiting issues.
That's not true, though. No, Jessica, that's not true, because you've got 92% of Americans believe that she did something illegal pertaining to her emails or broke the law. So, I mean, look, that is not true. And you also look at independent, and there was another poll that showed that 60% of independents believed that the FBI should have recommended indictment charges for Hillary Clinton. So this isn't specific
but they also want to move on.
Republicans. This is also independents. This is also Democrats. No, people are concerned about the intersection between the Clinton Foundation and her private email and her time as Secretary of State.
And the Clintons are counting on the American people moving on because that's what people have done in the past because the situation's so complicated. Thank you, guys. Both sides of the aisle demanding regulators go after Mylan over the EpiPen price soaring. But with Mylan stock plummeting and actress Sarah Jessica Parker, who was in EpiPen ads, bailing, John says that the free market has already taken care of it and the government would only make it worse. John?
Yeah, absolutely. What we need is an anti-stupid pill, and we need to take it to D.C. and just distribute it freely. Look, this is the way the free market should work. Remember in the Super Sandy relief bill, we had money in the initial bill for fisheries in Alaska. Now, you want these guys to investigate someone else? We have two presidential candidates that America doesn't want. We have 538 members of Congress that 90% of America disapprove with. This is an absolute distraction. Look what happened to the Turing CEO when he hiked the AIDS pill. he pretty much ruined his entire career. That's exactly what is happening right now to this pharmaceutical company and this CEO. This is how the free market should work. Congress needs to stay away.
Gary B., in 1 week, the stock of Mylan fell 11.5%. And just the outrage alone, Mylan stepped up and said, we're going to cover more of the out-of-pocket costs for people potentially, and also expand the number of lower-income people who will cover.
Well, you could say that certainly the publicity is working, but for those people to say the free market is working, I disagree. And it's not because I'm against what Mylan's doing. I would disagree on the grounds that there is no free market in this. As usual, the government is mucking things up. So kind of per John's point, there are competitors to this. AviQ, I don't think I'm pronouncing that right, but they had a product that was recalled by the FDA. Teva had a product out there that was blocked by the FDA. It's not the epinephrine that's expensive. That's like aspirin. It's this injection device, and the FDA is getting there and mucking up. People think, my gosh, why don't we have low health care prices? Why? Because we have the government involved. There was a free market in this area, or there was a free market in health care. You better believe that the cost of the EpiPen would be a few dollars. But there isn't, and this is the government's fault, not Mylan's fault.
Jess, I always love people in politics who won't say the government is the solution to a problem essentially created by the government.
Yeah, well, why not, right?
Because that's the truth.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I think actually that the pharma companies have taken a little bit of extra heat going through all of this process because they have to invest billions and billions of dollars to bring these life-saving medicines to market. But I think that actually the government did play a very, very crucial role in the outrage to get as much publicity about this as we needed for Mylan to self-correct. So I think in that way the government actually was useful, but I totally take Gary's point.
Lisa?
Well, even though Gary didn't agree with me in the earlier blog, I agree with him here. And the sense that there is no competition in the marketplace because Mylan has had a monopoly on this product, and that's the big problem, is there needs to be more competition to drive those prices down. A large part of that is because of patent restrictions at an earlier point, and also the FDA's red tape. So if anyone needs to be investigated, it's the FDA, and why these competitors have continuously been blocked by the FDA.
And Jonas, this company, Mylan, has spent tons of money on lobbying and marketing to create an iconic brand. People ask for the EpiPen like they buy Band-Aids. Doctors prescribe the EpiPen.
Okay, let's take it down a notch. It's not Apple. It's not Apple. It's an injectable $1 drug that they're selling for $500. Okay, look, the bottom line is that there's a little right and wrong on what everyone's saying. Look, the drug business is very complicated, and a lot of drug companies lately have been running like hedge funds where they do kind of sleazy stuff and they figure out ways where they can buy a cheap drug, and because no one else is making it for a while, they can charge a lot for a while they got a few years on a patent or no patent. There's just no other competitors because it was cheap and no one else wanted to make it. Valiant, you've read about the Shkreli guy, that guy's crooked. But it is all because the government creates a monopoly with patents on drugs and device patents. If there was no government, which everyone seems to think we want,
I don't.
Well, because it wouldn't work.
I love huge government.
Because if there was no patent protection, you wouldn't spend any money to make a drug because then everybody would make it for $1 after you made it. So there's a balance there. You need the government-protected patent, and then you need government regulation. There's so many areas to. Yes, the FDA is slow-mo with the competitors, but also Medicare can't negotiate the price of these things for some crazy reason. They should be able to negotiate if it's a monopoly situation. They shouldn't be able to call the price on like 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, which is $3.
John,
but when it's this kind of situation, they could be able to.
John, final word to you. I'll tell you this. Price controls from the government are going to be less innovation and less life-saving cures, period.
Yeah, and no one is offering a solution to actually fix exorbitant prices like this or price gouging. This is demagoguery at its finest. You're trying to get away from the fact that most of these politicians are absolutely incompetent. This was a presidential candidate, by the way, not the government, that actually went after this company. But they don't have a solution going forward. They're just going after this one company for publicity.
Thank you, John. Thanks. As kids head back to school, one second-grade class is already giving their teacher an A+ after she announced a new homework policy. No homework at all. The teacher wants parents to spend quality time with their kids instead. Jessica, smart idea?
I'm kind of astounded by this. I mean, first of all, second graders shouldn't have such a heavy load of homework anyway, that there needs to be a policy like this. But definitely second grade, 7, 8 years old, you should be having mandatory reading, which your parents can do with you. So I would have preferred that as the suggestion. Though she did say that if you didn't finish your work during the school day, you do have to get it done at night.
Jonas, you look like you struggle with homework. What do you think?
All I kept thinking is, where was this awesome teacher when I was in second grade?
Yeah.
Look, you know what? It's second grade. Okay, let's not get totally. The average second grader is doing 20 minutes of homework. The only person who's really working here is the teacher, because they have to grade 60 people's 20-minute homework assignment, and I can see why this slacker teacher doesn't want to do that anymore. I'm more concerned. There's so much I don't like about this. Like when I was grading papers in graduate school, I would have loved to say no more grade. These papers are all stupid anyway. You're all wasting my time. With the internet, is this still how it works? You get a mimeograph 10-minute homework assignment from some ding-dong teacher? Like, can't we put this on the internet and have, like, there be, like, you read Wikipedia for 20 minutes so you can learn more?
Gary B., good or bad idea?
I'm kind of mixed, to be honest with you. I don't think no homework is the right answer. I mean, in what area, athletics, music, academics, do people excel with no extra time? The other part is we are being annihilated across the board worldwide by countries like Finland, Japan, China on their skill level, even from the second grade on. I can assure you they're doing more than zero homework. To the other points, it's correct. They are 7, 8 years old. So, yeah, they're not going to get 3 hours of homework, but 30, 40 minutes of homework, I think is fair.
Lisa, yay or nay on no homework?
I think for second graders, limited homework here. However, I don't trust public schools anymore, and so I'd want to be able to see some of the stuff that they're learning just to make sure that they're not being indoctrinated with liberal policies.
It's not that bad, I promise you, Lisa.
But John, final word to you. But no homework means that the teacher's actually doing her job.
Exactly. Our kids are coming out of school as dumb as they went in. Our system is failing, guys. We are ranked somewhere between 14th and 30th in the world right now, despite spending more money than everybody else. And when you look at no homework, we have some great teachers, some great schools. Overall, our system's failing. Look at Finland. They are ranked. They do 3 hours a day of school. They have zero homework.
Right.
And they are ranked in the top 5 worldwide in almost every single poll. What we're doing is not working. We need to try something different. We're using school as a babysitting service.
Right.
That's all we're using it for.
Thank you, John. No homework. Build a fort. Ride a bike instead. Thank you, guys. Lisa and Jessica, especially for joining us.
Under the radar. Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Payne in for Neil Kavuta. Shocking new video surfacing showing Trump supporters targeted at a fundraiser in Minnesota. Then, outside of Trump Tower right here in New York, one protester getting into a shouting match with Trump supporter Pastor Mark Burns. Scott Martin says if there were Hillary Clinton supporters, this would be all over the TV. Also joining me, Charlie Gasparino, Morgan Ortegas, Julie Roginski, and Gary Kaltbaum. Dagen McDowell doing her usual great job sub-hosting Bulls and Bears, and Adam Lashinsky and Ben Stein are out this week. Scott, just look at this incredible video, but you're not seeing it on the mainstream media, just like those previous attacks in California.
Well, like you said, Charles, you are seeing or not seeing this type of thing happen all over the country. It's not just Minneapolis. It's not just California. We had it some months ago in Chicago. It's all these attacks, all these protests sponsored by leftist Democratic groups like MoveOn.org, creating panic, hurting Trump supporters by intimidating them with violence. But the mainstream media, Mr. and Mrs. Voter, doesn't want you to see it because they don't want you to know the truth.
Gary Kay, in fact, to Scott's point, if you were just an average or sort of an apolitical watcher of political media, you would think that this was happening vice versa.
Look, let's not call them media. Let's not call them journalists. They are the public relations department for the Hillary Clinton campaign. But it's not just on Trump. It's everybody else. Anybody who they don't like, they go after. And just remember, there was one guy at a Trump campaign that knocked out somebody. They covered it for 3 days. Now when you see this, it is crickets and we don't see anything. They don't even pretend anymore about who they are and what they're doing. And it's unfortunate because you know who does the job for them now? People like Judicial Watch and people who actually do an investigating on things that are going on the other side. And I wish it was the other way, but it's not.
Yeah, Julie, what do you make of it? I mean, certainly, I think even liberals would agree that there's a certain degree of bias when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Well, first of all, it's unacceptable on either side. It does happen on other sides, but we also learned about this from the Washington Post, which to me is the most mainstream media of all mainstream media outlets. Look, I'm going to say this. The difference here is this. You don't have Hillary Clinton from the stage yelling at her supporters, get him out of here, I'm going to pay for your legal fees if you get roughed up, if the police arrest you. That's what you have Donald Trump doing. That's why
to the point I think people are making, Charlie, is that we've seen that, though. People get to see that, and it's fair that you point that out. Unfortunately, most of America don't see these other images.
Yes, I would say that, okay, Donald stepped over the line when he did that. We all know that more than once. Hillary Clinton steps over the line, but not condemning this. This is, let's be real clear here, this is 30 times worse than what the Trump supporters do, the crazy stuff they do at his rallies. And I'm saying this as someone who's not necessarily a big, pound the table for Donald Trump guy. I mean, this is really bad. It is a violation of the First Amendment. It is horrible that the New York Times doesn't cover this every day. I'm going to tell you this. I went to the Philadelphia convention, okay? I don't know, you were there for a time.
I certainly was.
You were there?
Sweltering.
It was sweltering hot, and guess what? The far left of this country, these idiots that Hillary Clinton is looking to basically bring in her coalition, were burning Israeli flags outside, and nobody reported it.
Well, this week, guys, I mean,
or a few people. I shouldn't say nobody, because someone's going to attack me for Media Matters. It was reported, but it was well below the fold.
Sure. I mean, I think we all get the gist. And Media Matters, forget it. They have their own agenda anyway. Hey, here's the thing, though. Pastor Burns, right? He's been on our network. He's becoming a face, particularly a black face within the Trump organization. He was virtually, accosted, coming through the revolving doors. He was barely through the revolving doors. If someone can't walk home from one of these events, then I think you certainly have crossed the line, Morgan.
Yeah, I agree. It's a sad state in political affairs, especially when a pastor isn't protected. And I think both sides can give examples. Well, you did this at a Clinton rally, you did this at a Trump rally. So what we need is one of the two of them to stand up and be a leader. Condemn your side, as Charlie said. If your side gets out of line, condemn your side. But this is really bad for the country, that we can't have political discourse and that people can't attend fundraisers or rallies. Both of them, somebody stand up and lead and take control of the nastiness of this campaign.
It's anarchy, and the police in this country, as much as listen, I don't sit around attacking cops, but they are allowing anarchy to go on in the face because of political correctness. They should be cracking down on this crap. I mean, why are police out there saying that pastor can go home now?
In all fairness, I don't think I'll go to you, Scott, but I don't think the police were prepared for that. I think this is such a unique and evolving situation. It is getting ugly, and it is getting sad that you're going to have police stationed at places that normally you give an event, you go home. So I don't know that I think everyone's caught flat-footed here, but that's one of the problems, Scott. If the media doesn't report it, then how can you get increased scrutiny?
Charles, you are so right. Go back a few months to Chicago, which was the Trump rally that was canceled because of the protests due to MoveOn.org getting way too many people there, overwhelming the police and taking that over. See, that's the other problem, guys, and Julie kind of touched on it. It's not so much that Hillary needs to bemoan this. It's also MoveOn.org and some of these other organizations that are so strong that can get people to rally that they overwhelm the police, so therefore they're
let's be really clear. The police never asked Donald Trump to cancel that rally. He didn't have the courage to go to Chicago and have that rally.
That's a big difference. The
cops said, listen, he can't go to a major city in America and have a rally, and with all the Secret Service he's got around him, he's suddenly not blaming the protesters.
Gary Kay,
give me a break.
Maybe that's the point, Gary Kay, is that maybe these are large cities with large populations, and the police have not been prepared. Maybe you got to go back to the 60s, 68 or something like that for this sort of vitriolic display of animosity played out in such a physical manner.
Look, if the media is not doing their job, it's going to get worse and worse. Just remember, this is not surprising to me. Remember how they covered Occupy Wall Street versus the Tea Party. They kissed Occupy Wall Street's butt, even though they were a horror show on what they looked like, what they acted like, versus the Tea Party. They just didn't like what the Tea Party was about. So we're at a point right now that if this continues, something bad will eventually happen. Then somebody's going to have to report some real bad news.
This is more than just the media. This is the police of this country backing down in the face of this stuff. They are afraid to go after.
But they're afraid, Charles.
Well, that's the point. They're afraid. But I am telling you,
they're worried about what's been happening to them.
But they shouldn't be, because here's the thing: people's lives are at stake. And I'm telling you this, Charles. Occupy Wall Street was allowed to stay down there. When you went down there, I went down there. It was disgusting.
We went to the thick of it,
They were doing drugs. They were starting fights. They were keeping people up at night. They were making noise. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible situation. But the Bloomberg administration at the time was so politically politically correct. They didn't want to end it until it got so far out of hand. And listen, the Chicago police are trained to handle.
Hold on 1 second. It makes it easier for the police to do their job when the public understands what kind of challenge they're facing. And if the public never sees this, then it does make it harder. And again, there's a huge responsibility on more fairness within the media to show what's happening out there, because so far it's been a one-sided conversation with the media and the American public on what's been happening.
That's why you're seeing the democratization of the media, why people are going to websites, Vox.com, Twitter, Facebook. People are looking for more places, Fox News, in order to get their news sources, because it's no one. If you ask anybody out here on the street in New York, ask 10 people, do you think that the news treats Republicans or treats anybody fairly? No one thinks that. So this is what people are doing.
All right, guys, let's leave it there. So Hillary Clinton knocking the rich while hobnobbing with the rich. The Democratic nominee on a fundraising blitz from Hollywood to the Hamptons, snapping pics this week with Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel. That was at an event at their Hollywood Hills homes. Well, the price for attendance, just a mere $33,000 per guest. Charlie says the hypocrisy here is what's really rich. Charlie, just mad because it wasn't $30,000. You could have afforded $30,000, but
you just want to hang out with Justin.
It's a great book for you to read. If I wish Ben was here, because he'd probably read this thing. It's called Radical Chic and Mau Mauing the Flatcatchers by Thomas Wolfe back in the 70s, when the term radical chic came out, where all these sort of stars like Leonard Bernstein would embrace the Black Panthers and the left, and it's still going on. It's the most absurd thing in the world that these super rich people who fly around in jet planes, who send their kids to private schools, but demand stuff like forced busing and forced integration, they cuddle up with the left, and it's been going on for years. I think it's a form of, I believe, white person's guilt on a lot of these folks, that they are so guilty for making money and for their alleged class status that they have to embrace idiotic economic policies, which, by the way, hurt minorities in the end.
Here's the thing, though, Morgan. Hillary Clinton is running as the person who represents the poor, who she bashes Wall Street every time. She bashes the rich every time.
Except when they're paying her.
Except when she's bringing Sexy back, right, with Jessica Biel and his wife at their Hollywood Hills home. And so the hypocrisy, though, screams at us, doesn't it?
Well, what's interesting to me, too, it's so out of tune with her base and where her own party is. I mean, if you looked at what happened in the primary with Bernie Sanders, people were railing against money and influence in politics and railing against the concept that the rich and the elite and powerful in Washington and Hollywood get together. And so it's kind of confounding to me that whether it's Hollywood or Wall Street, she continues to raise money in a fashion in which that I think runs counter to her base.
Scott, even Bernie Sanders, though, had his own degree of hypocrisy on this. I mean, he had like courtside seats at a NBA playoff game.
3 homes?
Yeah, 3. Oh, yeah, he just bought his most recent vacation home. But Hillary Clinton, again, she says, you know what, I'm going to take this mantle and I'm going to represent you folks, because these are some evil rich people, forgetting about maybe she's worth $100 million plus and that she spends so much time. Guys, I just want to do the math on this. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, over $6 million, almost $7 million on one day. We're talking $20 million in 3 days, Scott.
It's big money, and I mean, it's Wall Street, too. I mean, the hypocrisy goes so deep. It's the Wall Street fat cats that she hates on public TV, yet paid her hundreds of thousands of dollars to give speeches to their employees just some years ago, even before, let's say after she walked out of the White House dead broke. I mean, that's the thing that kills me here. What goes around keeps coming back around, as in light of Justin Timberlake here, because Hollywood seems to love her. They seem to love her, but it's only because it's the imagery. They think they should have to, when the reality is they should be on the other side.
Gary, I'm going to go to you while Julie steams a little bit more.
But Julie's going to say "Cry Me a River" in the Justin Timberlake mode here.
Hey, Gary K, by the way, the number so far from Wall Street is almost $48 million, 47.5. Gary K.
Look, she has to raise $1 billion. She's going to go wherever the money is. She's going to rip on Wall Street, and then she's going to meet with them and kiss, and then ask for it, and they're going to give it to her. As long as she knows they're going to give it to her, she's going to come for it. And you got to realize, if somebody has a big amount of money and don't like her, then you're a racist. So this has been going on forever. It's going to continue going forward. The hypocrisy is at its highest level it can be, and it's never going to end.
Julie.
Welcome to the world.
Well, first of all, leave my boy JT alone. alone. I was the oldest person at his concert without not being accompanied by a teenager.
Were you dancing at the concert?
I was. Juliette Huddy and I went like maybe 10 years ago. It was great. But secondly, look, here's the problem. Donald Trump is the same thing. He's going to talk about it. He hates Wall Street. He's not going to hang out with Wall Street people. He's going to be tough on Wall Street. Except our friend Anthony Scaramucci hangs out with him and raises money for him. Steve Bannon from Goldman Sachs. Wilbur Ross was just on defending him the other day with me. So the bottom line is, both these people know the imperative in politics is to raise money, and unlike Bernie Sanders, who can raise them for $27 a pop from real people, these guys are both going for the big money.
There's more of a theoretical difference between Donald Trump's attacks on the rich and Hillary Clinton. She is actually attacking them every day, class warfare every day. No, he's not. Not as bad. His plan would help them. His plan would give them all tax cuts.
And she said she's going to overturn Citizens United, so she's actually talking about specific policies. Interestingly, I went to her website to see what she was going to do about campaign finance reform. She said and this is, I love the Clintons, she said she's going to get unaccountable money out of politics. Not money out of politics. That's what Bernie Sanders used to say. She said unaccountable money out of politics. So this is her way of parsing words, but still getting money from Wall Street, Hollywood.
I'm sorry, Gary Kay.
The hypocrisy is simple. The left rips the rich on a daily basis, that if you're poor, it's because others are rich and they are keeping you down, yet that they jump to the rich every single day for their money. That's where the hypocrisy is, that's where it lies, and that's where it's going to continue to be going forward.
It's been there for a long time. All right, guys, thank you very much. Talk rates for the next year, and the price hikes might make you feel a little sick. Premiums soaring by double digits in some states and jumping more than 60% in Tennessee. And Gary says it's going to get worse, and we'll all have to pay even if you have a private plan. No one's safe, Gary?
No one. Private plans are going to end up matching the price hikes that the government has forced up. When you have young people that don't need insurance not buying it to subsidize the chronically ill, that's where trouble begins. It's government forcing the issue, and that's where prices get out of whack. And just remember, we've been Gruberized here. John Gruber, who is one of the architects, came out and said that the transparency, that we don't know what the heck we're doing, and we're a bunch of stupid idiots. And guess what? Yes, we are, because we're paying for all this.
Well, Pat Riley, he patented three-peat, and he always gets paid on it. Go out there and get Gooberizing, because you own that, my man. Scott, what do you think?
Well, right outside my door here in Illinois, Charles, it's even worse. I mean, we have one of the local exchanges, the local co-ops that was created by the exchange, just go bankrupt. We were actually on that plan. My family was. We got kicked off it just about a month ago. We've lost our plan every year since we've been part of the ACA. Our premiums have gone up. We've lost access to doctors. As Gary put out, it's only going to get worse because now some of the big carriers are losing money on the exchanges. They're pulling out. They're hurting. They don't want any part of it.
Yeah, Morgan. I mean, to his point, my company, same thing. We got kicked out right away, and it's been an amazing struggle. But for regular folks out there who've already lost their doctors, how the heck can they keep up double digits, even 60% in Tennessee?
You can't. And if Donald Trump was smart and had some message discipline in October, this could be actually a good month for him politically. Unfortunately, it's bad for everyone who's experiencing this. But here's an opportunity to point out the failures once again of big government. Why are the major insurers walking away? Because this is private business. If you don't make money and you're losing tons of money, you're going to walk away from the deal, which is what they're doing, and it's hurting all of us.
Well, the big boys, let's face it, they wrote this. In the first couple of years, they built in a mechanism so that if they lost money and the government paid for it, that goes away next month. So Aetna's out and the rest of these guys, Charlie. And one of the key problems was that there was never true competition anyway.
Listen, this is I don't think anybody really understands what is here right now. This is it was always a Rube Goldberg sort of contraption that they developed. It wasn't quite socialized medicine. It was more like socialized health insurance, something that's already really socialized. They made even worse when it really came down to it. And the bottom line is that when you force everybody to get insurance, there's going to be cost overruns. And it's particularly in this really inefficient market where doctors get sued all the time, where there's cost overruns. And, so the bottom line is the premium is going to keep going up, and most average people will get screwed on this.
Right, and when you force everyone but the young folks who won't get sick and won't use it, refuse to play the game, Julie, that's been one of the problems. But it's riddled with a lot of problems.
It is, and it needs a fix, and Charlie's head's really going to explode right now, but this wasn't really health insurance. This wasn't really health care reform. This was health insurance reform.
That's what I said.
And if you cut out the middleman, get rid of health insurance companies, make a public option the way all of us wanted in the first. Some of us wanted in the first. Some of us. Those of us So the brain wants it in the first place. That's what happened.
I'm sorry, Gary, but I want to give my thanks to Morgan, Julie, and Charlie. Up